1099, of course, is when Pope Urban II told the Crusaders to go take Jerusalem and get it back for the Christians. Some of the important results, I wanted to just mention some important results that came about by the end of the Crusades. One of them was more contact between the Islamic world and Europe, because as I've mentioned before, they suddenly realized there's a whole world out there besides the French village that they grew up in. There's a whole big world that they had never even dreamed of. So sort of riding the tail of that is this desire for Oriental goods. That's going to then fuel the trade of the Renaissance and fuel a lot of the art of the Renaissance. And then another thing that our books have a tendency to not discuss very much is the conflict between Roman Catholicism in Europe in the West and the Eastern Orthodox Christians in the East. And the battle between those two, where the Crusaders in particular are trying to get Constantinople to submit to the authority of the Pope. And they're saying, no, we're not Catholic. We have our own archbishop over here. And so that battle actually leads to, in the year 1204, the Second Crusade sort of sidetracked Venice through, purposely, sort of sidetracks the Crusades and says, if you want to really sack, rape, and pillage and burn, there's a great, beautiful city with beautiful art, the Byzantine capital. So in 1204, the Crusaders are sidetracked on their way down to Jerusalem and go sack Constantinople. So a lot of the artwork that you see in Venice today was actually stolen from the Byzantine Empire. But one of the big changes with that is that the sacking of Constantinople by the Crusaders had two other effects. One of them is, of course, that the city the sacking was so awful and so vicious that they never really developed again to the point where they had been, never quite strengthened to the point they had been. So eventually the Turks are going to come in 1453 and defeat them, because it's sort of a has-been kind of city. They're not quite ever able to build up to what they had been with the rise of the Byzantine Empire. The other thing that's going to happen, too, is that the trade is then going to start. Once the Turks take over, the trade between Europe and the East is going to really rise, between Venice and Constantinople in particular. But once the Turks take over, of course, it becomes even a little bit more schizophrenic of, oh no, they're Muslims, they're horrible, they're terrible, and boy, they sure have nifty stuff. So let's go create trade agreements with these people. And that had been happening, but it actually sort of increases at that point. I also point out to my students that around the year 1000 CE, a little bit onward, some of the changes that come up in Europe that are going to affect world history. Europe's pagans, by this point, have been Christianized, and Europe has been united as the concept of Europe didn't exist. I mean, remember that there's this tribe, this pagan tribe, and this pagan tribe, and you're in the territory of this pagan tribe. Nation states didn't exist. That's a very modern idea. When I talk to them about Pisa going to war against Venice, who's going to war against Florence, they're going, aren't they all Italians? I'm going, not yet. Not really. The idea of Italy didn't exist. So the idea of Europe is starting to develop. And they're Christianized and united primarily due to the efforts of Charlemagne. And of course, I'm being courteous here when I say efforts, because he's the one who went into the pagan villages, lined people up in a row and said, convert to Christianity. And if they didn't, he beheaded them. So he's going to unite them very quickly under the name of Christianity and under the name of Charlemagne. But he's also called, he's gained a lot of power. And he's called the father of modern Europe and did a lot to unite Europe. New sense of unity under the banner of Christianity brings a period of relative peace. Notice that word. End of feudalism is going to bring about a rise of urban centers and an influx of Islamic learning into these cities in the 12th century with the translation movement we looked at. Agricultural advantages lead to more food, higher population, but our students forget also larger human beings. When they're saying, the cities are getting larger, I'm saying, yeah, so are the people, because there's more protein in the diet. So they're stronger, better fighters, healthier people, lower death rate. Fall of Toledo in 1085 brings some hope of ousting the Muslims from all of Spain, and of course they're going to succeed. Pope is going to rise and fall sort of in power, but Catholicism gets pretty eager to spread out from Europe because they really believe it's God's will that they win. 1204, Second Crusade is going to sack Constantinople, proof that God is on Europe's side. You can read that as Catholicism. In their minds, it's proof that God is on the side of the Catholics, and we're going to look, of course, at Queen Elizabeth saying, no, God's on the side of the Protestants, especially with the defeat of the Spanish Armada. We'll go there. After the Crusades, Europeans have seen a whole new world, desire for Eastern luxury goods, and end of Europe's insularity, desire to trade with and convert people farther to the east. They actually have a very positive reaction to what they call the Muslim arts of gracious living, but yet a negative reaction to the faith, and increases in the tale of Prester John.